All right, we're back, and it is episode 46 of What Could Have Been in Wrestling. This week we go back to 1994, and I want to thank one of my newer subscribers, Film Union 8194, for this topic suggestion. And I want to talk about what if the Macho Man Randy Savage never left the WWF at that point. So let's just jump right into today's topic. So if we go back to October of 94, that is, Macho Man, I believe, made his final television appearance on Raw, part of the commentary team, and he actually got physically involved in the match between Bob Backlund, who was challenging for the WWF title against Bret Hart later the next month at Survivor Series, and would win it. That's a key detail. And he was facing Lex Luger. Post-match, after beating Lex Luger, Luger was being attacked by Tatanka, and it was the Macho Man who actually made the save. I remember thinking that this could mean that Macho Man is going to be back in the ring more frequently, and that he wasn't going to be an announcer anymore. The week after, I believe it was, Vince McMahon actually comes on and on Raw announces on the air that the Macho Man is noticeably absent, and he says that they couldn't come to terms on a new contract, and he wanted to thank Macho for obviously all his contributions, but he obviously was no longer with the company. And to be honest, that's almost as sincere as you ever hear Vince at any time in his career, especially when he's doing something like Raw or any sort of wrestling promoting. Obviously, everyone knows that Savage went to WCW, rekindled his feud with Ric Flair, and also his partnership with Hulk Hogan, and was a major piece as they progressed forward a couple years later to the NWO storyline. But let's backtrack. Like I said, we're in 1994, and what if that doesn't happen, and what if they can come to terms on a new contract? As I said, they were hinting at Macho Man getting back in the ring. Obviously, like I said, going after Bob Backlund when he wouldn't release the chicken wing on Lex Luger. And I think that could actually play into that year's Survivor Series. At that Survivor Series, if we remember, it was Bob Backlund defeating Bret Hart in that throw in the towel match after Helen threw in the towel on Bret for him to lose the title to Backlund. Diesel that same night made a face turn after he finally got super kicked by Shawn Michaels for the third time. And eventually it was Diesel, Kevin Nash, jackknifing Backlund and becoming the WWF champion. If Randy Savage is still there and part of his new contract says he goes back into the ring more consistently, I think that changes a lot of things. So here's how I would actually go forward with booking Randy Savage throughout the rest of 1994 and into early 95. So, to start off, I actually wouldn't have Diesel become the new champion. So you can probably see where this is going. First of all, going back and watching it, seeing how corny those Diesel promos were as he first made his face turn, and seeing how he obviously was booked as the super babyface champion, he was more suited as a heel if you really watch his work throughout the years. And while I know he was the big man Vince was looking for, him as the smiling babyface was just not a good fit for him. And I would rather see him remain the heel, to be honest. And he could stay heel by obviously this sequence of events. At Survivor Series, Shawn Michaels and Diesel did walk in as the tag team champions, and again, like I said, when Shawn Michaels landed the super kick on Diesel, Diesel snapped, turned on his team, and Shawn Michaels ran out of the building and said that their partnership was done. And then Diesel made his face turn thereafter. I think obviously in that match, that opening match at Survivor Series, you don't have Shawn Michaels land the super kick, but instead, you still have Razor Ramon win the match, last eliminating Diesel. And the reason why I'd want to do that is because now Shawn would have a scapegoat of who to blame, telling him, look, you've lost to Razor twice now. You lost the Intercontinental belt to him at SummerSlam, and now you've lost the Survivor Series match to him as well. So let's just keep that on the back burner, because while they're still together as partners, now there's even more tension. So from there, obviously, with Backlund as the new WWF champion, he now needs his opponent. And like I said, they were already hinting at Savage feuding with Backlund when he hit the ring to save Luger. So I think it should actually be Bob Backlund challenging Randy Savage and saying that he'll put up his new WWF title because he interfered in a situation where he didn't belong, and he can tell him that old announcers that are washed up like Savage belong behind the announce table and not in the ring. So obviously he can basically question his pride, obviously question Savage as a man, and that would obviously lead to Savage wanting to get back in the ring and challenging, like I said, Backlund for his newly won WWF title. From there, I don't think you need to do it at the MSG house show like they did for Diesel, where it was a non-televised title change. I think you can have it right on Monday Night Raw, and you can have it the week after Survivor Series. So from there, live on Raw for the WWF title, it is Macho Man Randy Savage and Mr. Bob Backlund. And it doesn't have to be the 8-second match that Diesel had when he won the belt, but I think it could be a relatively quick match where maybe Backlund tries to go for the chicken wing early, Savage is able to elude it, and then he fires up. He obviously does his trademark body slam, and then hits his flying elbow. And then, for the third time, Randy Savage is the WWF champion. And we had a title change right on Raw. And I know obviously Raw was only a couple years in, so that might have been the first WWF title change if it had happened on Raw to that point. So that would be big news, and I think obviously even though they weren't in a ratings war yet, that was coming up in the next 9 months, and that obviously would have had people talking and could have popped a big number for them. So I know while they did have the new generation, I think that actually some people would really welcome a change back to when guys like Randy Savage were on top, because obviously WCW still saw something in him, giving him multiple world title reigns when he originally joined that company. And I think obviously this could be a really good feel-good story, watching Savage be the top guy again, and it could lead a lot of intrigue going into 1995. Now, with Backlund out of the picture, because I know he was a transitional champion, we can now shift our focus back to Shawn Michaels and Diesel, who in this scenario are still the tag champions. And I think that obviously they could lose the tag titles, and here's how they would do that. I think what would happen there is, in regards to their title reign, they can lose their belts to the 1-2-3 Kid and Razor Ramon. They had a really good tag title match on a Sunday, I believe it was the Action Zone back then, where again Shawn Michaels had super kicked Diesel, and they had some close calls to make it look like the Kid and Razor were going to win the belts while Diesel was knocked out cold. In this scenario, again, probably on Raw or Superstars, you can recreate that scene where the third time is the charm, in this tag match where Diesel is knocked out again by a super kick. And this time, Shawn Michaels can't overcome the 2-on-1 onslaught. And after a Razor's Edge, Razor gets the pin on Shawn, and we have new tag team champions, the Razor Ramon, who was also Intercontinental Champion at that time, and the 1-2-3 Kid. So from there on, we have new tag champions, but we also have dissension between Shawn Michaels and Diesel, where obviously they're blaming each other for the loss, and this is where Diesel finally snaps. And it could actually, I think it should be similar to when Sid turned on Shawn Michaels the night after WrestleMania XI, where he powerbombed him multiple times and Shawn Michaels was taken out on a stretcher. You can do that. Same scenario here. And I think that could gain some sympathy for Shawn Michaels as we head into the Rumble. Now, as we head into the Royal Rumble, the match card is going to change, and I think it's going to be Macho Man Randy Savage as the WWF Champion looking for a challenger, and that would be none other than Bret the Hitman Hart. And obviously this match could be a babyface match, which it was when Bret Hart took on Diesel, and it would be a match built more out of respect, where they could even have maybe some backstage segments together and being interviewed by Vince McMahon. And leading up into the match, they could obviously put each other over a little bit, but also talk about how their focus was on winning the match, and Bret would be reclaiming the belt, while Savage's focus is on retaining his belt. And as we go into the Rumble, I think actually the way it could go down is, while it could be a back and forth match, and I think it'd be a very good match, I actually think it should still be, even though like I said, they were trying to, quote, build new stars, I think at this point, it should be the Macho Man Randy Savage defeating Bret Hart and retaining the WWF title after hitting the flying elbow. And obviously, it could end with respect, like I said, where Savage and Bret Hart embrace, and they show, obviously, mutual respect for one another. Now, going into the Rumble, Shawn Michaels is still out with the injury, so he's not a listed participant. And I think, obviously, it's Diesel who could come in as number one. And just like in 1994, throughout most of the Rumble, and like they had him do in World War III in WCW in 1998, Diesel can clean house on the Rumble and be the one who's just ruling the ring. Obviously, he'd have his spot again of multiple eliminations, and I think it can obviously come down to him being one of the final men. Number 30 can still be a mystery, and I think that this is where Shawn Michaels can come out as the surprise 30th entrant, and I think this would actually put him in a babyface capacity, because I forgot to, like I said, I want Diesel to stay heel. But Shawn Michaels can come out now in the babyface capacity, because he's looking for revenge after being taken out by multiple powerbombs by Diesel, and he is now the 30th entrant. So it could come down to those two as the final two men in the Rumble, and with one super kick, it could be Shawn Michaels eliminating Diesel and winning the 1995 Royal Rumble. And now, he's the number one contender, but this time as a babyface for the WWF title at WrestleMania. So now, if we jump ahead to WrestleMania, the main event has now changed. And the main event is now Shawn Michaels versus Randy Savage. And like I said, now it's not a heel versus babyface capacity. It's a babyface match, kind of like Hogan Warrior at WrestleMania XI. And it would still probably be relegated to the semi-main event behind LT and Bam Bam Bigelow, just to make that clear. But obviously, I think it would be a great back and forth match, and I know that this is the man that Randy Savage, according to his brother, he wanted Shawn Michaels to retire him eventually, because Randy really wanted to do a long-term feud with Shawn, and he felt he could outdo his WrestleMania III match he had with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. So obviously, both men would be putting their best foot forward, and I think this match would be given plenty of time, and could tell a very good story. And in the end, I think it should be Shawn Michaels kicking out of the flying elbow drop. And when Savage goes for it again, he misses the elbow. And then Shawn Michaels is able to hit him with a super kick. And then 1, 2, 3, Shawn Michaels pins the Macho Man Randy Savage and becomes the new WWF champion. So he would get the belt a year earlier than he did in reality at WrestleMania 12. And I think this would actually solidify him, obviously, as the top guy in the company, but it would also solidify him as the new top babyface, which is what they were trying to do by 1996. And it already gives the new champion Shawn a ready-made feud to enter into with his former bodyguard Diesel. This time with Diesel still as the heel and Shawn as the babyface. And then post-match, you can have Shawn Michaels and Randy Savage shake hands, and obviously it would be Savage's endorsement and passing of the torch over to Shawn Michaels to really bring the new generation era into full effect. So that's where I'm going to leave it from there. I'm just going to cut it off right at WrestleMania 11, where Savage would then lose the belt to Shawn, and then Shawn would be on his way and up the charts as the new champion. So guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let me know if you think that Savage would have one more title run in him had he re-signed with the WWF in '94. Let me know what you think of my idea of Shawn going babyface in the Rumble, returning from injury caused by Diesel after they lose the tag belts to the Kid and Razor Ramon. And obviously, let me know if you think it's realistic that Shawn would beat Randy Savage at WrestleMania 11 that year and become the new champion. So again, thanks to Film Union 81494 for this topic suggestion. Please keep those topic suggestions coming. I promise to get to all of them. And I'll be back soon with another episode of What Could Have Been in Wrestling. Take care, guys.